Welcome. Today I'm going to talk about how to purchase an older car. This is not going to be exhaustive, but I hope that you receive some really great tips of some things that to think about so that you can make a more informed decision and feel more comfortable when you are shopping for older vehicles. We do carry some older vehicles such as this 2007 Ford 500 SEL that is behind me. This very well make it to our PAL line, which is pre-auction line, which is vehicles that we wouldn't necessarily normally carry, but we know that there's a great market for these vehicles and that people are looking for older, less expensive cars. So we do carry those. Those vehicles are sold as is. Of course, to make you more comfortable, you're more than welcome to take one of our PAL vehicles and have it inspected by your own third-party mechanic to make sure that you're perfectly comfortable with your purchase, okay? So without further ado, I'm going to discuss some things and hopefully you'll go away with some real world tips when you're considering purchasing older used cars. One of the things that I will tell you is that there's a couple companies, there's Carfax in particular, there's also AutoCheck that produce vehicle histories. Those are produced off of a VIN number. I'm going to show you real fast where to find it. So if you're looking for a vehicle, you'll find the VIN number is down on the bottom driver hand side underneath the glass, okay? So there's a VIN number right there. Additionally, there's another spot where you can find a VIN number, okay? And that's usually on the door jamb, and there will be a VIN plate, and it'll either be located here, this is a Ford product, on some vehicles like Dodges and so forth, it might be on the door jamb over here, okay? So there's a couple places real fast for you to be able to find the VIN number on the vehicle. That's important because if you're purchasing from an individual owner, you'll want to pay for and pull yourself a Carfax history report or an auto check or something of that nature, just as a matter of peace of mind. What you will get, and I'll just give you a summary of it, is it'll give you a summary portion, kind of tell you about the vehicle. It'll tell you, some quick information if up at the top about accidents and, the ownership and stuff. That's just a little fast overview. Then it's going to get more specific as it goes down, whether it's this one or auto check is going to tell you about ownership history, where it's personally owned, was it a rental, so forth, okay? Then we'll move on to an important section that some people overlook, which is called title history. Salvage, junk, rebuilt, fire, flood, hail, and lemon. Obviously, those are terms that want to engage the imagination so that you know that that is something you really want to pay attention to if that is indicated as a problem on the vehicle. Really want to know what you're doing before you ever buy a vehicle with what is called a branded title, okay? I won't go further necessarily into that, but you need to be very careful that you know exactly what you're doing before you ever buy a vehicle that's been rebuilt or something of that nature, okay? Now, not actual mileage exceeds the mechanical limits. Really, this refers to vehicles used to have odometers that, for example, only go up to 99,999. If they went a mile past that, it rolled over and started at 1 again. So then it's really 100,001. The problem with that is that it could be 100,001. It could be 200,001 because of the way that the odometer it exceeds the mechanical way that the odometer was made, or not actual mileage. You always want to make sure that you absolutely know what you're doing before you purchase a vehicle and the title says not actual mileage or exceeds mechanical limits. So the reality of it is you could be buying something with a lot more miles than what you thought, okay? The next is going to give you additional history. This is also important for you to keep mind of and to take a look at because it'll tell you stuff like total loss. Was it ever declared a total loss by an insurance company? Was there structural damage on the vehicle? And so forth, okay? Was there ever airbag deployment on the vehicle? Be something that you'd want to keep in mind if there was. Odometer check, accident damage, manufacturer recalls, and so forth, and basic warranty, okay? So that takes you through those sections of a history report, and then it will usually boil down and break down individual particular things like it was titled, so forth. It was, in an accident, it might show up later down here in the history, and it might give you some information about what that accident entailed. This particular vehicle, it doesn't list any damage. It is an older vehicle. I expect it to have multiple owners. If you're looking at a vehicle that's only 1 year old and has had 5 owners, that might be an indication of a problem that you want to look into, okay? Here I'm seeing a lot of oil changes and stuff like that, which is really great to see on a vehicle, and it gives me a better understanding about its ownership. It tells me where it was owned, both in Arkansas and in Tennessee. If a vehicle, for example, was owned up north, like in Minnesota or New York or something of that nature, I might want to be looking much closer underneath the vehicle to make sure that there isn't rust and so forth. Okay, so I'm going to set the Carfax history port down here on the hood for a moment and kind of go on with the automobile. So that covers that. Obviously, you're going to walk up to the outside of the vehicle. A lot of times people just kind of like look straight on at the vehicle. And I suggest that you do this when you are looking at an older used car, okay? Yes, look at it from all sides. But do this. Go up to the front of the vehicle, stand approximately here, and look down the side of the vehicle at a glance. Here's why. Because of the way vehicles are made in reflection in the sun, and different stuff of the paint, if there's a wave in the door or something like that nature, you're going to be more likely to see that when you're looking down the angle of the vehicle. Also, what I'm going to look for is I'm going to look to make sure that where the hood and the fender meet, that it's consistent here as it's consistent there, consistent lines on the vehicle so I can get a better look at it. Okay? So I'm going to do it from this way. I'm going to look at the car from this. Obviously, you're going to look at it from all angles because you're wanting to make an informed decision. Okay? Cosmetics on an older vehicle don't bother me. So little scratches and stuff like this on the bumper, I consider you're taking groceries in and out. I expect that. Okay? So same thing. I'm going to look down the side of the vehicle. Now, there's a little ding right here. That doesn't bother me. That's cosmetic. Little scratches here. That doesn't bother me either. Those are all cosmetic items. What I'm looking for is the major things, okay? So I'm looking at the doors, I'm looking at the lines of the vehicle to make sure that nothing has been majorly shifted on the car. So I'm going to look for that. Another great tip, I'm going to look at the manufacturer of the tire, and I'm going to look for the size of the tire, okay? And on this one, it's going to say, I'm like P215 60R17, so that's the size of the tire, right? So I'm going to write that down. I'm going to write down the manufacturer, and then I'm going to go around the whole car, and I want to make sure that all the tires match. If it's got mismatching tires, that indicates that I need to question, why are they mismatched? Was the car out of alignment? How did it, it's going to cause me to ask more questions. So that's something that's a great tip that some people miss. Are all the tires consistent all the way around the vehicle? To my surprise, on this vehicle, being older, they do. They all match, so that's great. That's a good plus sign, okay? I'm going to look at things. I'm going to open up the trunk. I'm going to lift up the mat. I'm going to look for, like, evidence of rust or something of that nature because I don't want to buy a car that's been in a flood, okay? So I'm going to open that up. I'm going to open that up. I'm going to look for any sign of mold, rust, anywhere water has been sitting where it's not supposed to be sitting, and so forth like that. So I'm going to look in the trunk. I'm going to go to the extra effort, look underneath. I'm not just looking at the fact that it has a spare. I'm going to look for rust and so forth like that. Okay. So I'm going to look underneath there. I'm going to pop the hood. So I'm going to go through this extra effort, right? Because there's things that you can do and there's things that you can look for. And understand that, not everybody on the planet is a mechanic, but there's some things that you can do before taking that last step of taking the vehicle to the mechanic and so forth. One of those things is that you can bring a rag with you, you can have a glove with you or whatever. You can take off the oil cap yourself, screw it off, take a look at the bottom, make sure there's no presence of like a milky color or anything like that. You can check the oil yourself and put it back properly, okay? Do not take off the radiator cap on a car that has already been warmed up. That's a no-no. That can cause you to get a burn, okay? But you can check the oil and stuff like that to see if you notice something, okay? And then put them back properly if you feel comfortable doing that. If not, bring someone with you and let them do it if you're looking at an older car. So you can do that prior to taking it to the mechanic. If you see a problem, you move on to another vehicle if that vehicle isn't for you, okay? So that's one of the checks that you can do. You can start up a car. When you start up a car, you can look at the exhaust. The car should not be consistently blowing white smoke. If it's blowing white smoke, it's an indication that it might have a head gasket problem. If it's blowing blue smoke, it's an indication that it might be burning oil. One of the things that you need to look for on older used cars is lights on the dash, like lights that are warnings. A engine light, for example. Don't just take someone's word, there's an engine light, they say that it needs a tune-up. Okay, well, my next question is why didn't you pay 50, 75 bucks or 100 bucks to get a tune-up if that's all it was on the car that it needed? So why is there an engine light? One of the things, if you purchase it from a personal owner, here's what I would consider doing. Pay the $9 and run it through emissions. Why is that? If you go over there and they hook it up to the diagnostic and they look at you and say, we can't pass it through emissions, sir, because it needs to be drive cycled. That means that someone went in and cleared the codes and now it won't pass emissions. That's a big warning signal, okay? And that's something you can avoid a problem later on. So I'm going to start the vehicle and I'm going to listen to the vehicle. I'm going to look for the exhaust. And then now let's talk about the test drive real quick. When you go to test drive a vehicle and you're test driving an older vehicle, here's a tip. Don't drive it just around the block. Take the vehicle out, do normal driving in it in the city, stop, go, so forth. Take it out on the freeway, get it up to speed. Take it out on the on-ramp. Bring it all the way up to highway speed and stuff like that. Find an abandoned parking lot, take and turn the wheel all the way to the left, do a sharp left circle. Turn it all the way to the right, do a sharp right circle. What do you listen for? You listen for clicking sounds and stuff of that nature, which would indicate a problem. Do not drive the car with the radio on. Okay, there's time to check out the radio to make sure it works. Cool. When you're driving the car, no radio at all. Okay, if the person's real chatty, ask them to be quiet for a little bit while you listen to the car. Okay? If you're going to hear something that's really wild and weird, you want to hear that before you purchase it. Okay? All right, so you're going to be looking at those things. You're going to look at the general condition of the car. Cosmetics don't concern me. One of the things that I'm looking for is, does the wear and tear on the car pretty much match up with miles? If you're looking at a vehicle, the person says it only has 30,000 miles, even though it's a really old car, and you look at the car and it looks like the wear and tear looks like it has 230,000 miles, you should be raising your eyebrow. Okay? So, without making the video excessively long, I hope that I've given you some common sense tips on purchasing older vehicles. Like I said, we do carry some older vehicles in our pre-auction line cars. The person is welcome to take those on a complete and total test drive and make sure that they're perfectly comfortable. And they're also more than welcome to take it to their own third-party mechanic to make their own informed decision. If you're purchasing a vehicle from the personal owner, though, I would highly suggest getting a Carfax history report or getting an auto check and never taking a personal owner's word on something important on a used car where you're going to make your investment. I hope that you take away from this video something that helps you and helps the other people that you share it with. Thank you so much.